We got to be early, right, Eric? Isn't that what you
Man,
say?
that's right. Early is on time, and on time is late. Thank you, Coach Davis.
That is exactly right. What is going on, everybody? I am Mike Murphy, aka Barracuda, and this is Jig
Cuda.
Squad. Eric, how are you, buddy?
Man, I've seen better weeks.
Not at home.
Not at
Working
home,
on getting
man.
batteries changed, haven't you, Ben?
Down in the Carolinas, man. Oh, let me turn my phone off. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, man. Started out the first tournament, man. Got to our first spot. I'm like, fresh start, fresh year. Last year was a little rocky, man. And man, Scooter goes to deploy the trolling motor, steps on that button, man, because he's always on 90. That's why they call him Scooter, and it is dead as a doornail. And it's cooking. The wind's blowing about 10, 15, so we're floating into this cypress knees, and he puts the power poles down. We go to troubleshooting. Nothing. Nah, we check everything. They're out. It's out. It's done. I'm like,
So,
is it the motherboard on the charger? We roll out, put it on the trailer, go to the tournament trailer. They've got a generator. We try to power it up for 30 minutes. Nothing. We're assessing, troubleshooting, and at the end of the day, we're like, these batteries must be dead, or we got a bad charger.
what
So we
time
go
did you get to fish? How many
yeah, we
hours?
did. We did. I didn't even look at my watch. In fact, I left my watch. It's the first tournament where I didn't wear a wristwatch, and I wasn't even looking at my phone because you know what? I'm like, it is what it is. I'm not even going to start counting the hours that we missed because
How
that would
many
have
did you
just
put
been.
in the box?
I put 4 fish in the box.
Did you get a limit? Did you get a limit?
We didn't weigh in.
You didn't even do it. Well, hey, you know
No,
what? You went out and
no,
fished. It is what it is. When I saw
yeah,
your story and I saw that you guys were picking up batteries at 10 in the morning, I said, "Oh
no,
no." But
no,
anyway, you're in warm country right now.
no.
It's
It's been
not what is
like,
the temp there right now in
dude,
Nags Head?
it was like 75 the day I got here. The next day, it like plummeted to like 50s with a 20-mile-an-hour wind. It's been blowing for 3 days straight, raining.
Dude, it was listen, it was almost 70 degrees in Chicago on Saturday. So, but
Wow,
listen,
that's
let's
crazy.
get into this. Welcome to everyone. We're happy to have
That's
you
right.
tonight. You guys know who's here. You guys saw the title, you see the post. We have Brennan Chapman here tonight, and I am super excited to welcome Brennan to Jig Squad. And tonight, I want people to be able to see a little bit about the type of jigs that this guy designs because they know him for a lot of different reasons. But what they don't know is that this guy can make a jig. And so we're going to get him in right now. And he's got some juice to show us tonight. And I'm kind of excited to have him here. Brennan, what's up, buddy? Welcome to Jig Squad. How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Fantastic, man.
Good deal.
Appreciate you having me on. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic.
Looking forward to it.
You see, Brennan, the best part is you've got this new shop area and so I don't know if too many people have talked about this, but let's just start out right with that. So like you have this area that we see behind you is your new little office at home, right? And you haven't had this for long.
No. It's been a long time coming. It's not exactly the way I need it to be or the way I want it to be yet, but it's going to do for now. I'm thinking of names for it, but I think Bass Lab. No, that's taken. No, I got to come up with a name yet. Maybe you guys can help me out. But yeah, this is my dojo for sure.
That is dojo. Awesome. I love it, man. You got it set up right, man.
He's got some good juice in there. You guys, so if you're not following here, I'll pop it up real quick. If you haven't seen the stuff that Brennan posts, so he posts a lot of fish pics, big fish pics, but also you got to pay attention to his story because the story on Instagram is where Brennan Chapman puts out all the juice, and he will put out videos of jigs that he's making. I'll go as far as to even tell you there were the colors that just came out from ProTech that were on his story that I don't know if people caught on to, but they were there. And so he puts out little nuggets of juice once in a while and some phenomenal jigs. So Brennan's here. You guys know Brennan. So Brennan's from with doing molds, right? But aside from that, he likes to make some jigs. And how many years you've been making your own jigs, Brennan? Because you've been in the fishing scene for a while, only just as an angler, right?
Yeah, as an angler, honestly, since I could walk, like no joke. So I mean, it's been a lifelong journey, and hopefully it takes me all the way till the day I'm done on this earth. But
right on,
making jigs really not terribly long. I've been at Do It. May will be 5 years I've been with Do It.
Okay.
Honestly, I didn't make my first jig if I'm being totally honest with you, I didn't even know what Do It was until probably a week before I started there. I grew up 5 minutes north of Do It. Dreamed of having man. I dreamed about having a fishing industry job since ever. But there's no clear path or plan to get there, So I went to college, did the whole thing, and kind of laid down a bunt and went for something that makes sense for me local, which is agriculture, ag business. Ended up, things evolved. I found my way into the fishing industry, and lo and behold, there was a fishing industry job available 5 minutes south where I grew up, and I didn't even know it. So kind of snowballed, and here I am today. And I've been making jigs since I started at Do It, which is basically 5 years. Been fishing jigs my whole life, but haven't been making them too terribly long.
Wow. What's the last jig you made?
Swim jigs. I'm gearing up for swim jig season. That'll be one of the first things I'll throw here when ice is off, hopefully in just like 2 weeks. I'm really hoping. We'll see what happens. We're getting some warmer weather. Ice is definitely on its way out, so getting ready for swim jig season.
What's that flavor? What's that flavor that's going to be in your hand right out of the gate? I mean, of course, it's going to depend on water clarity, quality, but you can figure ice out. What is it clear up there when ice is out generally?
It really depends on how fast that snow melts. And kind of what state the ground is in, like in terms of how frozen it is. If that water doesn't penetrate the soil, can't go through the water table and spill into the lake, it'll stay pretty clean. If it has to go through the ground, grab some sediment and then head to the lake, then it'll dirty up. But honestly, I'm that's kind of my jam right now. Maybe not the rage crawl, but
dude, I like that. I like that bullet head. I like that bullet head, man.
For sure. That's nice. Probably something like that.
Is that a spark shad on there?
Hold on, let's make them big.
Spark shad.
Show that again. We like to do this,
man. We like the show. We like the show. Yeah. Sure.
So
you're gonna see that a lot tonight.
Ooh, wait a minute. Is that a red band on the collar there?
Yeah, she's bleeding a little bit.
Dude, I love a bleeding band. I think that's brilliant.
Let's talk about that for a second, Brennan. So some of the jigs that you posted or that have been in your Instagram story lately, they have been wire tied, but you've been using colored wire. So I've seen green, I've seen red, I've even seen maybe an orange, like a copperish color.
Sure, yeah.
So
why not?
I like it because it adds this other little highlight to what's on the jigs. And the thing is, the only place I've seen that, and I haven't looked much further, I saw it at the hobby store and I said, I should get some colored wire and use that as kind of like a feature spot. And when I saw you posting those jigs, I'm like, that looks like on that Go Time head that you painted with the green, it just looked really slick. And of course the red, I mean, that if it doesn't look like a bleeding gill in that area, what the heck?
Right on. I mean, think about it. In a crankbait, you do a whisper of ruby on the throat, right? In a gill pattern, you might do a whisper of orange. I hand tie mine because I don't do wire. I do it with thread.
Sure.
And I've always done a bleeding throat, generally speaking, on a shad colored pattern. I think it's a great way to add an accent because why not? Absolutely. And it's just a hint, like they see it a little bit, and it's a great target. I mean, if you're striking there, it's awesome. That's where you want them to strike, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess a little bit more about myself. I'm from Iowa. Denver, Iowa is where I live, home of, HQ of Do It. As far as like home water goes, like nationally recognized bodies of water, my home water is the upper pools of the Mississippi. So La Crosse,
Swim Jig City.
Yeah, where the swim jig was literally invented. So
right on.
I can't even tell you how many times I've been on the Mississippi fishing chrome blueback, let's say lipless or I don't know, anything crankbait. And I can't tell you how many times I've come across just a little hint of red behind the gill plate with a permanent marker or nail polish has made a difference. And I think including that on a swim jig, it's definitely not going to hurt anything. I feel that it can only add.
I agree.
For sure.
Love it. That's brilliant. So let me ask you a weird question. As good as the chrome blue rattle trap is, right? I mean, how many fish have we all caught on a chrome blue rattle trap? It works in your water. It works on the Potomac River. It works on the Upper Bay. It works in the Carolinas, all over the country. Has anybody ever tried to tie a chrome blue flash swim jig? Like chrome, completely silver flash blue, or whatever the material is going to be to give you that most flash, and just that blue on the top. What would that do with like a white trailer? A little bit of bone.
If you give me like 30 seconds, I can find one.
I would love you to do
I got
that,
one
man.
in here.
Has anybody? I've never thrown one, but I think a flash swim jig would be that. Does it work, or is it too much?
I'll be honest. It's so what's the word? Maybe flamboyant.
Yeah.
That I just don't have a ton of confidence locking in my hand long enough. I've seen like a sexy shatter, muted sexy shatter, just plain white work way too well. To justify locking that in my hand all day, but I've got some.
I wonder if you did, what would happen? Like if we were forced to, if we had a notion, like I've got this.
It's coming. It's coming.
I know
now,
it's
dude.
coming, but I mean, people will tie it, but will they fish it? And would they keep it in their hand? It's kind of like I talked about a flash boo. I tied this gaudy vibrating jig. It was on an old Phoenix vibrator heads, and I hand tied the skirt, and I put zonker strip in it. I don't have it with me because it's in the bass lab, but I absolutely murdered him. And I mean, it was flashy, gaudy. But man, if that water was a little off colored, the flash that it put out, and because it was vibrating like a trap, it caught him good. It wasn't chrome, but it was more of that pearlescent flash boo, and it was dynamite. Anyway, just a thought, man.
Eric, that's a great point. So this gets into material again, right? So like there's so many new and unique and different materials out there. And for anyone in chat, you guys have heard me mention this place before, and some of you know about it, and many of you have no idea. But if you go to Fly Tires Dungeon and you start looking around for material at their crystal web and all these unique materials that they have, big game hair, there's a lot of really cool materials. Look at Small Jaw saying right now, Lumaflex. You see Small Jaw, Small Jaw is going to fit in really good here.
That's right.
Because Small Jaw, Dan, his name is Dan, and Eric loves the Lumaflex. We've been talking about it for a couple of shows. And let me throw this out there real quick. If you guys don't know who Small Jaw is, so Small Jaw is one of the OGs on YouTube of jig design. And if you haven't seen his stuff, you absolutely need to go and watch him, because he's one of the first guys that many people designing jigs who searched on YouTube started watching. And he has such, whether it's just a simple preacher jig or some basics, he's been tying for years, and he's an OG, and he makes some phenomenal things, and he's extremely well respected in the jig tying community on YouTube, and you should check him out. He's not on Instagram, but he speaks Eric's language, saying Lumaflex. But guys, think outside the box of what materials you could use to try and recreate some of these things. And I think you should look into Fly Tires Dungeon, because there's some unique, cool little materials out there that you should go poking around. You're going to find some cool stuff, and very cheap as well. Half the price of what you would pay in a fly tying store.
Wow, very good. That's a great tip, Kuda, man. You ought to put that up there. Fly Tires Dungeon.
Yeah, let me find the link, and I'm going to copy it and put it in.
You're the man. You're the man. So Brennan, what color swim jig in that Mississippi River area has been, like, if you could only have one in your hand all year long, what color, weight, and trailer would you be throwing?
All right.
That's a tough question, man.
No, I love that question.
I know my color for my Potomac and Upper Bay, but I want to hear yours.
Sure. Absolutely. I love that question. I think if you looked at the rule book for the Mississippi River, it's a white swim jig. It's not a secret. Everybody's out there throwing a white swim jig. Okay. The pros are going to be up, or the Elite Series is coming to La Crosse, I want to tell you, in August, and I'm calling it right now. The top 10s, that anybody in the top 10, I guarantee you, or would be almost willing to guarantee that a white swim jig is gonna play.
Wow.
However, I'm gonna go against the grain here. I'm gonna say a black and blue. If I could choose one, and that's the only color swim jig I could throw all year, I'm gonna go black and blue with a red eye.
Oh snap! I love the red eye.
Yeah, that's
Is that a snooty style jig?
Yes, this is. This is one I poured myself. This has a trocar in it. This is more like really dirty water. This is a 3/8. Sure. This is like if I come up to like island head or undercut bank, something with some good current through it, and I want to flip it as opposed to like really swim it. So flip it in and swim it out kind of deal.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's got a beefier hook than I would typically throw in a swim jig. But again, this isn't like your conventional swim jig, or at least I'm not going to use it the conventional way.
Sure.
In that scenario.
Eye. Yeah, it's a cross eye. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
So black and blue with that red on the Mississippi River is a staple. That's a huge deal.
Amazing.
I will live and die by that red on there on a black and blue jig on the Mississippi.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so I'm going to go black and blue in that scenario. Reason being, it's an excellent bluegill imitator. So in crystal clear water, like you really find this hard to believe. Hopefully someday you guys can come out and we can all fish together. I'd love to make that happen sometime. But
I would love to.
Dude, there are parts of the Mississippi River. If you know what to look for and you know where you're going, there's 10-foot visibility on the Mississippi River all over the place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Say that one more time, Brennan.
There is 10-foot visibility water on the Mississippi River. When I dump my boat in practice, like the hunt is on for the clean water. You know, like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for clean water with current in it. Current is life. Clean water on the Mississippi attracts bait fish. There's just life in general, right? In those little pockets of that clean water. That black and blue, I know it, you know, maybe to us, it's not a huge bluegill imitator. There's, you know, things like this, which we'll talk about this color combination later. But black and blue all the way around is a great bluegill imitator, even in that really clean water. And it also contrasts, obviously, extremely well in the dirty water. So if I had one color, I'm going black and blue, hands down. During the shad spawn, things like that, I might get my butt kicked. But rest of the year, I feel pretty good about my odds.
Very interesting. Good choice. Good choice. And it's funny because, you know, we talk about bass and what they see, and black being one of the colors that, you know, is the most contrasting color. It begs the question, why aren't more black and blue baits made? In particular, a really good black and blue crankbait pattern.
Sure.
You see a few, but not a lot. Anyway, interesting.
See, Hello Bass is on here. He knows a thing or two about the Mississippi River, I think.
He does.
He goes, did someone say Jigs? What's up, Hello?
HB.
That's
welcome,
right.
guys.
In the house.
Yeah, I mean, look at like small jaw. I have to go like an olive pearl, like small jaw. So for me, some of the river fishing our way, like Northern Illinois waters, not the Mississippi. But I love anything olive pearl or olive white. Like that's, if I had one color, I'm going to go. And Dan, you're out east, I think, small jaw. But I'm going that olive pearl. Like that's my number one, you know, color.
Tie it up. We want you to tie up Kuda's OG olive pearl slim jig and show us on IG.
So listen, we could do that.
Let's do it.
I will tell you.
You got a homework assignment, man. Show me your
dude. I have so many homework assignments. I have so many homework assignments. I got a list a mile long. But here's what you want to know what so Ike and Ellie comes out with this little mini swim jig. The Missile, was it Missile? Is that what brand it is? Yeah. Yes. So he comes out with this mini swim jig, and I'm kind of laughing to myself because I know like about a dozen guys that are jig tires that are all working on mini swim jigs or have some out. And I'm not.
Is the mini swim jig just like a quarter or just a smaller frame? Is it like a mini flip but a swim jig but small?
I think it's compact. I don't know that size specific. I'm sure it might only go up to like 3/8, maybe 5/16 tops, but I'm sure it's more of the compaction.
Shank. Yeah. So if you look closely, there was just a picture I saw, and one of the features on that jig is that there's a greater amount of lead on the shank part than you normally would see on many jigs. And
so probably like a hidden weight spinner bait.
That's exactly right.
I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, I can make a river rat spinner bait compact by hiding the weight in the shank. Right. And it does a few things for the bait. It balances it a little bit differently too. Like,
so the one I'm playing around with some designs for a smaller swim jig style is, and it just depends on what type of head you want to use. But I think the poison tail head is phenomenal for a swim jig. And I think that you could put some round bend hooks. You can even get O'Shaughnessy, and everyone gets hot when you start talking O'Shaughnessy, but you start taking some of the O'Shaughnessy, the 111s, the Gami 111s or something, and throwing those in that poison head or modifying a little bit. and you're talking like a killer little swim jig. And if you start,
are you saying we have to get out the adjuster to do that?
I'm saying that I love the adjuster. I think Brennan's got something in his hand right now. I want to see what he's got.
Let's see.
Hold on.
Sometimes you just got to get out the torch, dude. So I throw 111s. I'll heat these up, and it's a little painstaking. I'm not gonna lie. It's well worth it though. Do
you guys understand what he just showed? So
I know it's a spark shot on a beautiful hook with it's an O'Shaughnessy bend, right?
It's a O'Shaughnessy hook, but the O'Shaughnessy hook, the Gami one, it's a 111, right, Brennan?
Sure is.
The Gami 111 is a 90-degree line tie, and you see the tie on that. I wouldn't even call that a 60. It's not. I don't know if it's a full 30, but it's close, right? On that.
All right, full stop. Full
30,
stop.
yeah.
What is the story with all these guys having to fire up their torches, anneal the metal, get the adjuster out? Why doesn't somebody just make it the way we want? Brennan, you might know a few guys, but are you kidding me? It's like there's so many good jig tires, jig makers, and we all see these hooks that we love, and we're doing things to modify, and at the end of the day, it drives me nutty. It's like, when a company designs a hook, I throw big swim baits, and everybody's getting their pliers out to bend frog hooks out. I'm just like, what is the point? If we're going to design something, let's design it from the beginning and design it right. I think you could, who's working on the ultimate swim jig mold? I hope it's Do It. I just hope it's Do It.
Well, without spilling the beans totally, there's something in the works.
That's so awesome to hear, because I'm a swim jig freak. I mean, my rivers are full of grass. Even if your river's not full of grass, a swim jig, buy a dock during the shad spawn, buy a log. I mean, it's an unbeatable combination. And there are just some preferred hooks out there. I mean, here's the thing that really blew me away, and it made me want to pull my eyeballs out of my socket. Tom Mansour holds up his Mansour swim jig, right? And I bought some of those swim jigs that had way too light wire hook when they had them at Bass Pro Shops. And I'm like, damn, Tom's not even throwing the hook he sells. That bugs me. He's modifying a hook to put in his swim jig head. And I'm like, why can't I get that hook production? So I just think that if a company spoke to the masses to say, this is what the pros throw, now we're giving it to the Do It guys out there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that'd be hot. Because this is what this Jig Squad revolution's all about, Kuda.
No question, yeah. I gotta say too, I mean that 111, if it were up to me, that gap would be a little bigger.
Yeah.
There'd be some subtle tweaks that I guess I'd like to see, but I'm working with what I got here, and that 111 for a long distance, lighter line swim jig.
Yeah, it
nails them. They're coming in the boat. If you swing on them, they're coming in the boat. Now, I would not trust this if I'm close quarter combat, flipping into stuff. I mean, it's a great hook, but that close quarter stuff, I guess I'd prefer to have something a little beefier. Sure. But again, this is more like long distance. Like if I want to cover a grass flat or something like that, long distance, excellent choice.
Man, that's nice. If you don't mind me diverting from just jig talk, what's your swim jig setup, man? I mean, I'm fascinated. I've gone back and forth, and I've experimented with braid. Didn't feel like I got enough bites. I had to modify the rod action. But anyway, what's your go-to day in, day out, grass flat coverage, not combat fishing? We'll get to that. What's the setup?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I don't know the model number off the top of my head, but it's a Dobbins medium. Medium or medium heavy, man. I honestly don't know. I want to tell you it's
different.
Yeah, I want to tell you it's a medium, but it's got a little bit of spine to it, but it's really parabolic, which is key for that long distance swim jig fishing. Close combat, totally different story. We'll get to that. But,
absolutely.
Long distance, like if I'm firing that sucker way out there and I'm working it over grass or whatever it may be, I want that medium action. I want it to really load up. And again, I'm not fishing it on a giant beefy hook. I mean, I got to be able to swing on it. That rod has got to load up, and work the fish. So for me, it's a medium action Dobbins 7.3.
Okay, and what about gear ratio on your reel and line size?
Slow 6.2 to 1. Yep.
Wow, interesting.
Yep.
Helps you slow things down.
Yep. And typically when I'm throwing something like this, This is typically not going to go much more over a 1/4 ounce. Now, when I'm throwing like a 3/8 or something like that, I'll bump that gear ratio up, maybe a 7.3 to 1.
Sure.
But when I'm doing this, like that long distance, typically 6 to 8 foot of water or less, fishing over topped out weeds that might be 5 feet down there.
Sure.
1/4 ounce is kind of key. You don't really want to go too heavy, or you got to really crank that thing to get it in. And that kills the swim jig thing. Swim jig for the most part is low and slow for me.
Yeah, man. And what about line size for that long distance? Are you 15? Are you 17? Are you?
I'm 17. I'm 17, and I want a little bit heavier line diameter.
17 too.
I want to keep that thing up in the column a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep. And I rely on that line diameter to help me out with that too.
And gotta know, what's your favorite fluorocarbon?
I'm a Sunline guy. I've done it all, man. I've got some Gamma. I've done the Seaguar game, been through it all. I like Assassin and I like Sniper.
Interesting.
Sunline. Yep.
Yeah. The Gamma is probably a much larger diameter, but man, that 16-pound Gamma is like 20, anything else, maybe 22. It just is almost unbreakable. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy strong, but a little coily for me, but sure. I fished it for years and I've moved around, and I do like the Sunline, man. That's for sure. I've been impressed. Good stuff.
I like the Assassin because it holds up really well. It's softer.
Yeah.
The Sniper, you definitely go through more line, and I prefer the Sniper for more like bottom contact, Sparky, Arkies, things like that. Football jigs.
Sparky, Arky, I like that.
They rhyme.
They do. That's good.
Yeah, so I guess I've been through all the lines, and I've really narrowed it down to just a handful of lines that I rely on. And I'll take that Sniper all the way down to 6-7 pound for fishing up in Sturgeon Bay for smallies.
Wow. And it's held up well.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are just two lines that I feel like they cover all the bases. They've got all those really nice in between sizes too.
I love
17 pound things like that.
Yep. I like when they have the odd size, like 7 pound. It's not 6, it's not 8. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool.
Yeah, 16. Right in between.
Yeah, man. Sure. Right on. Wish it was so Brennan, expensive.
Speaking of that, so where do you have some fishing ventures planned? So last spring, I know you were up in the Door County region, but where's one of your first trips going to be this spring?
I'm heading up to Green Bay to the Ocano area. So I'll be on the Fox for 2 days, actually.
Okay.
April 3rd and 4th, I'll be on the Fox River. I'm a bass freak, right? But, I can't put my hands on a 10 pound, 14 pound largemouth, but I can put my hands on a 10 to 14 pound walleye. It's a really, really good way to knock the rust off. Like,
okay.
I'm not an ice fisherman, used to be, been there, done that. Not my thing. I'd rather, save the money and save it for, gambling and tournaments, high stakes gambling. No, I do quite a bit of walleye fishing in the spring, just trophy fishing for walleye. It's a ton of fun.
Nice.
Jig and plastic almost exclusively, a little bit of rip and wrap, some jerk bait, but I mean, it's trophy stuff and I love it. So I'll be up in Ocano and the Fox River April 3rd and 4th with actually Max Baranchek. Hopefully he's watching tonight. He's
Max B, yes.
Yeah, man. He's a do it guy, and he's a phenomenal tire too. Oh, you're going to get to know Max. I hope he's on here someday, Kuda, because he's a talented jig maker.
So Max Baranchek, hey, I'm gonna find his Instagram and I'm put it in the chat. So Max and I chat all the time.
Nice. Okay.
Well, the thing about Max, here's the funny thing is he posts a lot of fish pics, but I want to see, like, once in a while he'll post jig pics in his story or he'll send them to me. I'm like, dude, why don't you post more of these jigs? He's a phenomenal designer. He just got done making a whole heck of a lot of hair jigs. Yep. I know that. And he's up in where? The Door County area, Brennan?
Man, he lives
just south of there, I think.
It's like Shawano or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce the name. It's just south of Green Bay, right in that area. So I'm crashing at his place for 2 nights. He's taken me out. He's just one of the greatest guys on earth and a phenomenal jig maker and a hell of a fisherman. He guided under Brett Alexander for several years.
Yes.
If you know Green Bay, you know Brett Alexander. Phenomenal guide, world-renowned guide out of Green Bay.
Wow.
So Max takes me out, every year and we go whack them. So I'm looking forward to that. And then right after that, I'm heading up to the Ocano area. And I'm fishing with one of our pros, Isaac Lockich, who, if you pay attention to head-to-head fishing or the walleye scene, you've definitely heard of Isaac. He's the kind of known as like the forward-facing guru when it comes to walleye fishing. So he just dominates everything he fishes using forward-facing sonar for walleye. Another super talented fisherman. And I hope to pick up even more nuggets. And I always do every time I fish with him when it comes to forward-facing sonar. Are
you fishing with Spencer up that way at all?
You know, I don't know if I am. I hope I run into him when I'm up there because I will be up in Sturgeon Bay. Early May. God, I can't even remember. I'd have to look at my calendar. But I want to tell you, I'm up there 2 days with Max again, or 2 days flying solo, which will be my first solo venture up in Sturgeon Bay. I have an idea of what I need to look for. And the conditions to look for it. But
when is that happening? Your solo doesn't have to necessarily be a solo. You realize these things.
All right. We'll be in touch.
All right.
We'll be in touch.
I want to tell you, I'm up there May 8th and 9th solo.
Okay.
Max is going to fish the county tournament. 9th and 10th. And then, no, I got that wrong. I'm fishing 2 days by myself before that county tournament. While he's fishing the county tournament, and then hopefully he uncovers, like, you know, I told him, I'm like, hey man, just like save a school like 7-pounders for us, you know, like find a school of giants, sandbag, save a couple back for us, and we'll get some pictures and video. But it'll be really fun. I'm looking forward to that one.
Man,
that's
awesome.
That's like the pinnacle trip of the year. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. That's fantastic.
Eric, you know what's funny? It's always my favorite trip of the year. In the last couple of years, I've been bringing my boys up there. But the funny part is, like, we haven't been going up there. Like I said, you guys know I'm in education. And so trying to get up during that prime time right before the tournament start for the big pre-spawners, right, is always challenging and difficult. But what happens is once school's over, I usually go with my guys on some type of trip. And it's usually up towards Door County. And then I'll come home and then I'll go back up to Door County right after being up there. And I'll bring my boys up there and stay at my friend's place right on Little Sturgeon Bay. We'll be up there chasing fish. Spawner, still a few pre-spawners left, not many, even the third week of June. But this year's a little different. So we're going to Mille Lacs right away at the beginning of June, that first week of June, the first couple of days, and we're going to be on them. And then home, and hopefully a big trip to Hawaii with the family. So it's going to be a dancing game this year to find out when I'm going to be up. And I might not be there during prime time, but it doesn't matter. It's just beautiful to fish up there. The reefs.
It really is. It's incredible. It's if anybody watching ever gets a chance to go up to that area, Door County, it's life-changing. It'll humble you just as quickly. For example, I was up there 3 days last year. We caught like 15 pounds day 1, 29.5 pounds day 2, and 0 day 3. The conditions, man, they change so quickly, and it's so weather oriented.
Right.
It's unbelievable. So when things are working in your favor, when everything's firing on all cylinders and you're where the fish are at, where the big fish are at, it's going to go down and it's going to change your life.
Legendary.
Unbelievable. I've had days where it's cast after cast and like, you're not even, you know, you pull up a 5-pounder and like, you don't even care. Like you don't even call for the net. You just unhook it, let it go and fire right back out there. Cause you want a 6, you know,
that's great.
But then you come out the next day and you fish the same spot. And if the conditions aren't right, those fish are probably gone. And if you waste too much time there, you might as well put it on the trailer and go home.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, man.
It's crazy. So it sounds like, I mean, you have plenty of good times coming up, and that's fantastic. You know,
for sure.
It's so listen, you
got to interview him about the flow, design, and color. Come on, man.
I prepared myself for this.
I can't wait anymore. The quiz must start now. That's
all right,
enough
go ahead.
talk.
You asked the question.
That's enough eyeball talk. No, you go first. It's your show, Brandon.
So here we go.
I'm the minister of culture. I'll keep you in line, but you gotta start.
The dean and the minister.
The dean and the minister.
The dean and the minister.
That's exactly right. Yes, hold on, let's get it up there. I just want to, Brennan, not trying to influence you in any way.
Flow.
But I just
okay. I like flow. Flow is the best.
All right, so the Jig Squad's theme is flow, color, flow, color, and design. All right, so it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? I think I've changed my mind on what it means 100 times myself, right? It's about the experience. So when you hear those words, flow, color, and design, what do you think about, and which one do you put first in your order when you're trying to create?
In terms of importance, which one goes first? Is that
however you think about it? Whether
however I interpret it, this is a loaded question.
Okay. It is. It's whether you think it's most important or the one that excites you most. Because I think flow is most important, but color excites most. See, this is what happens.
That's a great way. That's a great way to
true.
Help people think about it. What excites
and the
you?
Flow,
what's most
and there's always flow of color.
See, and that was a question that I had, but okay. So in terms of what excites me the most, like
yes, this is Jig Squad. Let's go.
Yeah. In terms of what excites me the most, like one of I mean, my baby or my favorite part of my job and what I do in my career is I get to design, jig molds, right? And soft bait molds, things like that. So without a doubt, design is what excites me the most.
Okay.
So I'm going to go design. If it's what about excites me. Now,
that excites me too.
Right. I love it. In terms of what I think is important, my answer would change, but I'm gonna go the excitement route. So I'm gonna go design, then I'm gonna go color, then I'm gonna go flow. In terms of what excites me, like I feel like, the design. If the design's not right, I'm probably not going to get bit, or I'm going to have a hard time getting the fish in the boat. Like, for instance,
sure,
if I'm dragging a jig, I don't want a swim jig, and I definitely don't want it to be like, chartreuse or pink or something. Not that can't get bit. But I'd take that design route first, and then I'd probably go color, then flow.
Okay.
But I absolutely hate that question at the same time, because
I know it's hard.
Yeah, it is. You can't have one without the other, right? I mean, they all are in sync. So
it is so true.
Very good way to land that plane and wrap that up. They all have to work in concert, right? You could have a great color, but if the design is bad, let's say you've made this wood jig and you're all excited about the color and the flow. If it's not proper, you're hung up, the jig's folding over, it's rolling on every branch you bring it to, you're stuck again. You're digging it into the crevice of each rock, the line ties going into the rubble. It just creates a ton of problems, right? So that's why I think design has got to be an important piece for me. But I do get excited about color and flow for sure too.
And I guess going back to flow here real quick, flow to me is more like the word that comes to mind for me is maybe the presence of the jig. I know you could definitely look at it.
Good way to describe it.
Yeah, it is. You could definitely look at it in terms of like the flow of color throughout the jig, the layers, having a fire tip, whatever. But I think of flow as in like skirting material and just the presence that it gives in the water. More skirting material, more bulk, more presence, sparser material, more finesse, maybe less bites. But I think presence to me is what I think of when I think of flow. So this is like a jig with, I would say, medium presence, medium bulk. It's not crazy, but it's fairly alluring. It's I don't know, less intrusive, maybe more apt to getting a bite. And, if you compare that to like a mop jig, for example, that's maybe more situational, or at least
this is a good comparison here.
Yeah. And in my part of the country, I really prefer something with less skirting material. Less is more for me in this area.
Just a 5. That's
you go down to Texas, you go down to Conroe, you might want more often, I would say you might rely on that mop style jig, 5/8 ounce, stroking it off the bottom. And not that can't happen here. It definitely does. There's definitely times of the year that I focus on that, and I'll keep it honest, more regular. But more times than not, I need less flow or less presence in the water, and I'll go for something a little bit less intrusive.
Yeah, it's a great way to describe it. There's been people, there's been guys in chat before Brennan that have talked about like, hey, Kuda or Eric or whatever, I wish you guys would focus on some maybe more mainstream. I don't even know if mainstream's the right word, but more.
This is Jig Squad. We don't like mainstream, right?
Like heavy technique of like Southern fishermen and how that changes in terms of bulk of the jig, amount of material. And it's a great concept because I know that like, it's funny because even though like my discussion of flow when it comes to Jig Squad has been like, I've used the analogies I've used has been about the amount of material and what it looks like in the water. And it's what you described as presence. The funny part is, I think that when I first created the words for Jig Squad, I thought of flow. I was really thinking about them in terms of color. How do you make and manipulate colors to work together to create something that is completely different? You know, how it looks in the water. And you know, so even then it's funny because like I could see myself describing all these different elements in different ways and probably being right, you know, from a design perspective with all of them. And I think that's the cool thing. So like Small Jaw just said, just like it's been mentioned a lot of times, less material, more action. Right, it does. But so he just says in general, less material equals more action. And I agree with that in terms of how I design. But Eric, this is kind of cool because we talk about what everyone says about this, but we haven't really talked about this as in depth is from some of the first shows. So there are designers out there that I see on Instagram that and like I said, design however you want, right? But I see them design things. Like I go back to the hybrid jig, right? A lot of times people will talk about what a hybrid jig is, and there's a lot of different definitions. But one thing that I'll see people do is they'll take their classic silicone skirting style, right, for a jig, and then they'll say, yeah, everyone's tying hybrid stuff. I want hybrid material. And sometimes I'll see jigs where they add that material onto a traditional, maybe a 2.5 tabbed skirted jig, 3 tabbed skirted jig sometimes, and throw that you know, synthetic hair or marabou or bucktail on the underside sometimes, and it just kind of gets lost. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, when you make a hybrid jig for my design style, I need that hybrid element to be accentuated by a limited amount of silicone. And I think
you want the hybrid piece to be the feature.
That's exactly right. And so for some other designers, it's the exact opposite. You know, they just want it as an underbelly or an extra length coming off the back end of the jig. And so it's funny because I appreciate how everyone designs it, but everyone's not on the same page when it comes to this. And the weird thing is no one else is talking about this. That's why we're here. And that's why Jig Squad is here to expose ourselves to all these different styles and say, all of it can work. You know, what do you think is your approach and what you're going to design and to make? And that's the part that excites me.
I got something to kind of piggyback off that. I mean, you see manufacturers, there's just a standard for how much skirting material is included on a jig universally across the board. I understand there's exceptions. There's some manufacturers that have a finesse skirting package across their, you know, all their SKUs for this line of jig, right? But I got to tell you, for the most part, there's a universal number of how much skirting material gets added overseas in the factories that they're being produced in, right?
For commercially available big company jigs.
Exactly. And I got to tell you, and I think it's, you know, it's a fairly well-known fact. Maybe it doesn't get talked about or thought about often, but I like to think for this community here that's engaging tonight, we recognize that probably stands out to us.
How much do you think that is? How much would you say that material amount is?
You know, I would probably say 2.5 tabs. Does that
I think
sound right?
I would have said.
Yeah. I think it's a 2.5 tab amount, right? Yep. Sometimes maybe a variance of that, but it's close to 2.5 tabs.
And what I love about making my own, and I'm sure what most people here like about making their own, is like you can make something that's totally different. Most guys that are going to take that, maybe not a tournament guy, maybe not a really well, maybe somebody that's far along in their fishing journey and understands like, hey, maybe I can pull some of these tabs off and get more bites, or maybe this isn't enough tabs. Maybe I need more tabs to get more bites, whatever that case may be. But I got to say, like, you know, to the average guy, they're probably just going to fish that jig out of the package to the average person.
Hold that jig up, Brennan.
Yeah. So this is something I want to talk about. Like, I will say,
Sparky.
It's like a spider.
Sparky.
Yeah. So you can kind of see how that
spidery,
that back layer is standing up. Like, you know, if this jig's on bottom, it's going to naturally posture upwards.
It's like a reverse finesse jig.
Right. And I will tell you, I don't even really like talking about this, but I got to say, more times than not, I revert to this. I want that trailer to complement and work with my skirt. I want my trailer to manipulate that skirting material. Yeah. Right. It's going to manipulate that skirting material. That trailer is going to create drag in the water. It's going to manipulate that skirting material, where something like this, it's not. I mean, it's not. This skirting material is really intrusive. That tail is going to do its thing, but it's not hardly going to move this skirt. Where sometimes, like kind of like what Small Jaw was saying, less is more in a lot of cases, and it's really overlooked. Of course, your trailer is important, and selecting the right trailer to make sure you maximize that action in your skirt and for everything to truly work together. That's important. Not maybe not every trailer will do that. But I find more times than not, something like this, especially on really pressured stuff, works really, really well.
It's incredible to me because that's got how many strands of material? It's like it looks like a half and a half almost. I mean, is it round rubber or flat?
I know it's round rubber. That's the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I don't want to steal your show, Kuda, but
no, buddy, because it's on the list.
This is why you're here.
This is why you're here, dude.
All right. So that's something else that I kind of wanted to talk about. Me personally, right? I understand like there's a ton of exceptions, there's outliers, things like that. But I got to tell you, I tend to not fish a jig on bottom unless it has some round rubber on it. I am very partial to having round rubber on it. Now I'll tell you what I call my hybrid, right? I'll put tabs in there, just regular silicone tabs, but really that round rubber is key for me. What those tabs do, it allows me to add different layers of color that I you're just not going to find in a round rubber offering. And it also has a different action. Not much, but it is different. That round rubber is more easily manipulated by your trailer. That silicone is not. That silicone's kind of dead. It's not, we call it living rubber for a reason, right? I mean, round rubber, I mean, it comes to life underwater, where that silicone's just kind of dead. It doesn't have a ton of action, and it's just there. That's not bad, but in my mind, I'd rather have as many different kinds of action going on under the water as I can.
It's like secondary action, and I talk about this a lot when I talk about crankbaits. When I throw balsa, and especially very buoyant balsa, if I'm cover cranking and I'm worming the crankbait, let's say early season, right? And I'm pulling, dragging, picking up slack, pulling, dragging. I hit a rock or a lay down that's laying on the bottom in 6 to 8, and those pre-spawn females are right outside of spawning bay. When that bait backs up, I'm either suspending it, right? Oh, there you go. I love that crawl pattern. I'm either suspending it with some type of weighting on it so it stays in the strike zone longer. It might slow sink, which is a secondary action. If it's super warm and I want a very buoyant crankbait, as it backs up, it's wobbling. So I imagine round rubber headed to the bottom. It pulls together, and as soon as it hits the bottom, it goes poof, and it's doing a lot. And it's being manipulated on the way down by kicking trailer craws, right? So this to me is flow. This is a great example of flow, right? The skirt is flowing because I've tied it through my design in sparse material, and the materials that I've picked, and maybe not jig head design and hook design and how things work together, but now it's flowing because of the way and the material that I picked. That's flow, man. That's one aspect of flow.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point.
So that skirt's flowing, the trailer's manipulating it, it's hitting the bottom, and now it's got boom, secondary action. It's still flowing in a way that you want it to, looking alive to trigger strikes.
Let's touch on this because Clint asked, right? So it is the like of the round rubber on bottom used jigs because you fish a current lot. Now I have an opinion on this but do you want to touch on that at all, Brennan? Sure. Is it because of current, or is this in lake or other type of scenarios as well?
It's really all scenarios.
I agree.
I'm really partial to that round rubber or having predominantly round rubber in all scenarios, whether it's a lake or river. I will say when I'm on a river, I'm way more conscious of the weight itself as opposed to maybe the material that I'm using. I've got a 3-year-old upstairs that's throwing stuff on the floor. Sorry.
It sounds like he's
all
playing
normal.
marbles, man.
Yeah,
all normal stuff.
It's probably a tackle warehouse shipment. It's probably reels or something he's throwing around. But no, I'm probably
weights.
yeah, just tungsten. They're 1 ounces.
No worries.
He's practicing his punching.
I love it.
Good job, son.
Boom.
No, I'm probably way more conscious, honestly, about the weight in a current situation. Me personally on the Mississippi River, like having the right weight is a huge deal in current. I mean, it's the difference between not getting a bite at all and absolutely lighting up every fish that's right there waiting for you.
So
you'll fish right over top of them. Yeah.
To me, it's rate of fall. So to me, anytime I'm fishing anything, it's depth, it's speed, and cadence. If you keep talking to yourself about that as a bass fisherman, depth, speed, and so depth and speed, rate of fall is in that speed category. If I flip a 1/4 ounce to a piece of wood with current versus a 3/8 versus a 5/16 versus a 5/8, 3/4, imagine it's crashing to the bottom. So I've seen it make a difference in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy up or lighten up. Like
Sure.
Steve Chaconis got on the river. He's flipping a tube, which is basically a jig with just a round head. And I'm flipping, literally, we're fishing pilings, and he's fishing all 4 sides of every piling. I said all 4 sides of every round piling. He's covering it. He's leaving no stone unturned. He's on the front of the boat. I'm behind him with a 1/16 ounce 4-inch high float robo worm. It's called a little pudgy. And I absolutely wore him out. He did not get a bite. He did not catch a bass.
So
literally he presented the bait in front of him every time. So as it relates to jig, your point is so heard right now. It's all got to be right. So the weight of the jig in current is key. So for me, question, I fish some rivers down south that probably have current like the Mississippi.
Sure.
They rock. The Roanoke, when it's at flood stage and the water's coming out of the woods and the bass have been in the woods
it's
for
cooking.
months. I mean, it's rocking. What are you flipping? Are you flipping in fast current, like Mississippi level current?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in a high flow situation, or higher, islands kind of play, and those
wing dams.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Hard cover, really, right?
Sure.
But those fish, if they're on an island or they were on an island head and maybe a lower flow, they're typically on the island because the island's got the most current, right? And current brings life, and they're just hanging out in the current, being opportunistic, waiting for bait to blow by, waiting for that bait to become vulnerable. They can ambush easily. They set up on clay banks by, crawfish pockets, a bunch of crawfish holes.
Yep. You're talking about the Roanoke River.
Crawfish holes. Yeah. River fishing, man. Yeah. Now, when that current picks up, a lot of times they'll start to resort to that end of the island where there's less current. And they might start setting up on those sandbars, which a lot of people, maybe myself included, sometimes are a little bit more uncomfortable fishing. But if I'm fishing in like heavy current, I will say more times than not, I'm just going to go to a tube. I'm going to flip a tube. Minimum of like 3/8 ounce. Depends on the current, right? Depends on the flow. But probably 3/8 to half ounce, maybe a little heavier tube. And if the current's that bad, I'm probably not going to be on an island or island head or anywhere near an island. I'm probably just going to go to hard bank in general.
Right on.
And lay downs, things like that, and play my odds there.
Yeah, 10-4 makes sense. Interesting.
And Eric, my answer on that is I tend to go lighter because keep in mind my experience on rivers was I cut my teeth wading the rivers with lots of current, decent sized northern Illinois rivers. And we get in the water in the winter drifting for walleyes and stuff like that. So like
that's so
everything was about judging rate of fall and weight and how you were going to be able to transition through current seams little eddies. And so everything
kind of like fly fishing almost, dude.
It exactly is, except you're reversing it a little bit where you're going the bottom and you're trying to say, where do I need to cast for that to drift into that hole right at the right time?
Yeah.
And
very interesting.
What that's transitioned into for me is when I'm fishing in a boat with friends, is that I tend to not go as crazy heavy when I'm doing that, because I had to make so many adjustments on how I would cast and where I would cast in order to get through some pretty stiff currents sometimes. And I just learned that way.
And in boat position or in that situation
is a
where
big
you're
deal.
Standing and waiting is going to factor in heavily on where your cast lands and what weight you need to drift down to hit that spot and keep that jig or whatever in the zone as long as possible.
It's like swim baiting.
Yeah, man. And drifting jigs, I guess, is I don't know. It's an art. It's an art.
Brennan, we got to do this.
I was with Ryan Salzman, and we're at Wilson, and we're in the river part of Wilson, and I mean it's chucking, and we're on this bank where there's a lot of smallmouth, and I'm trying to get my spotted bass, smallie, and largie all in one day, and I did it, by the way, but it's like quarter cast upstream, and you are drifting past a ton of laydowns. If you don't pay attention, you're hung city. And it's all about line control. It reminded me of fly fishing. I mean, you've got this bow in your line. You got to keep your rod tip high. You got to reel at a certain pace. You got to stay just above the bottom. You can't get lazy. You can't look at the nice, pretty owl that just flew by. You really have to pay attention. Rate of fall. It's all super important, man. So, Kuda, I hear you, man, on lightweight versus heavyweight. Where do you got to cast? What angle are you casting on? Where are you trying to get? Are you trying to right by the tip of that lay down because the water had fallen and those fish pulled out? Fascinating stuff.
For sure. And I mean, sorry, Kuda, go ahead.
No, go ahead, bud. Go.
I was just going to say, one last thing on the rate of fall thing. I find a lot of times, and forward-facing sonars, without a doubt, help me out with this. In fact, it's probably opened my eyes to rate of fall more than anything. How much I pay attention now to rate of fall, just being able to see those fish live, read their mannerisms, their body language, and how they react to the rate of fall. When those fish are negative, a lot of times you either have to go extremely, extremely light, or you have to go super, super heavy.
That's a good point.
It's very fascinating. I had a chance down in Ag said, I have to tell you guys this. This is a great rate of fall story. So I got Kuda, you love it because saltwater. The Gulf Stream blew in. There were millions of glass minnow around Jeanette's Pier. There was a group of Spanish mackerel, and I've never seen them in clear water. They had this olive back. I didn't know they were mackerel, but I thought they were. They would never swim under the pier, but they were 45ing the end of the pier. Had a pink gotcha, white belly, black polka dots, gold hooks. The only way that I could get them to bite was to literally drop it on slack line down and snap it as hard as I humanly could with braid. If I did it on mono, forget it. It had to be braid with a fluoro leader. And if I got one to fire, they all fired at once. I caught 5 Spanish mackerel. They were so satiated with the minnows that they've been gorging on, they didn't want to eat. But that rate of rise, right? I mean, there's two sides to it. Stroking a jig, right?
Yes.
It's how fast it comes up and how fast it goes down, right? So I was stroking the freaking gotcha plug, man, and got bites through doing it as hard as I could.
That's crazy.
Otherwise, it wouldn't. It's crazy to see fish reaction. I didn't have live scope, but I had eyeball scope on the fish. It was really cool.
There you go. Better than live scope.
Using my own eyes. It's kind of cool.
Awesome.
Hey, let me ask you a question about material. Cool. Hellabass asked this earlier, and I forgot what it was. Let me scroll back up. Hellabass silk about a material.
Hydrosilk.
Hydrosilk.
Isn't that just another name for what you call it almost? For Lumaflex, but thinner? It looks like it to me.
Maybe so.
I'm not sure.
I
have not used it, HB.
Can't you buy Hydrosilk at the fly shops, and it's really looks like a really thin strand of Lumaflex? I feel like, but maybe
it does look similar to Lumaflex, but it almost looks a little more hair like a sheen of a hair.
Really thin hair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like silk, but small.
I just never have used it.
Like on a hair jig?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Don't they use it in saltwater applications a lot, or they
They would,
tougher.
yeah, they do use that. There's a material, and if you guys go on that Fly Tires Dungeon site, there is a something silk that he uses, or a material like that that's meant to replicate a lot of like that Hydro Silk material. So
Hellabass, what did you have in mind? What were you thinking people were using Hydro Silk for? Did you want it on a chatterbait, a spinnerbait, a jig? Where would you see the application, and what are we trying to imitate? A bait fish? Certainly not a crawl. But maybe.
I have an off-topic Hellabass, a problem, I would call it, an issue. So I won this hat, right?
Ooh.
From Serious Angler Podcast, shout out to them. And Hellabass offered to turn this into a visor for me.
Ooh.
But as you can see, never happened.
Yeah, what's up with that, Hellabass?
Yeah, dude, what's up with that? This was supposed to become a visor, and now it's just a hat. All right, carry on.
So small jaw's
Hydro Silk is round, soft silicone.
Is that
so just a really finessey kind of frog hair kind of material?
Yeah, like a frog hair, basically, kind of.
What about
is it smaller than frog hair?
What about kind of like what Kitech uses on some of their on their little jigs?
Is it similar to that? Silicone. It's a super fine silicone. Hey, you're a round rubber guy. Have you ever seen the Rainey's round rubber that's really tiny and barred for fly tying? It would be so expensive.
Dude, I'm such a I have so much to learn when it comes to the fly fishing realm.
Yeah.
I envy those guys that are super good at that, you know, like you two. For example, I mean, I've just got so much to learn when it comes to fly tying material.
So Hellabass says a Hydro Silk, it was round rubber but silicone. There's a really nice round rubber, a round silicone. What the hell is it called? I don't know, Star Flash. And it is very springy, and it has a lot of glitter and really cool colors. Mr. Chapman, I do believe that you would be very interesting in exploring a Hydro Flash skirt. Go to Bass Pro Shops. They sell them banded, but I do a lot of cutting up of the material. I will say that I've used it in many applications, and it is springy.
Hydro Silk. Mentally noted. Got it.
Hydro Silk and Star Flash. Star Flash.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm on it.
Yeah, they are close. Mr. Smalljaw just confirmed. I guess Hydro Silk might be a little bit smaller. I don't know, because silk makes me think it's smaller, round silicone, but springy. There's a lot of cool round silicone materials out there that I've used for a variety of my creations in the lab, as I love to tie.
There are a lot of cool materials, round silicone typed base materials. You just have to keep looking out there. And I mean, there's one I kind of
want to fly shops a lot. That's where I find them.
Yeah, that's basically, and I wouldn't have learned about all these had I not started learning and done so much research on tying flies. I mean, there's Brian's Custom Tackles out there, and I'm not. He shared one with me once upon a time, and I won't say it unless Brian says it himself.
No, that's his trade secret, because we asked him and he wouldn't reveal it.
I
won't reveal it either. But
the point is, and I have a whole bunch of it.
The secret sauce.
Yeah, so there's other stuff out there besides what Brian just put in chat. But guys, if you find round rubber and you get the fine sized, it's going to mimic a lot of what we're kind of talking about. So if you were to make a comparison with it.
Round rubber anymore? Flat rubber with a square cut rubber? What was the rubber that everybody was like after? There was the flat rubber.
Yeah,
old school jigs.
Rubber. There was the square cut rubber.
And Brian said it. Brian Cole said it. Okay, so there's a couple things going on. So we'll get to what Brian said in a second. But there's square cut. There's old school flat cut, which is Andy's, by the way. And I called Andy's, and he actually has some in stock.
Brennan, what is that? Which one's that? Sorry.
I'm not going to lie to you. This is not the Andes. This is a tab. I want to say this is
let's make you big.
Fishingskirts.com or something.
I did notice that thing was rather thick.
Is that flat or square cut?
It's flat silicone, but I've got a roll of some Andes old school flat rubber, and I'm going to tell you, I mean, I've even tested this in the tank at work side by side, and it's identical. And you can get this in tabs.
To the round, Brennan, you're saying it's identical to the other?
No, I'm saying that this flat silicone is identical to the flat old school Andy stuff.
Rubber. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
And I incorporate it in there, but I can't say I have any experience using like a jig entirely tied with the flat old school stuff. Although I know guys that do that have had a ton of success. So something I got to experiment with.
There's lots of juice.
Color, though. Really bright, man. Really bright. I think that's the advantage, right?
For sure.
There's lots of juice coming in chat. So one Small Jaw said the Hydro Silk isn't made anymore. Brian's Custom Tackle dropped what I think is probably one of the most awesome round rubbers out there right now. It's called Perfect Rubber. The company that makes it is Hedron. And so if you want to know what the company Hedron is the company that basically put out Flashaboo. They started manufacturing what everyone calls is Flashaboo. And the cool part, hey, BC or BK, you posted it in chat, brother. So now I'm going. The cool part about this stuff is it literally I should go get some. I should go get it downstairs. It has different colors that you can't find in the other round rubbers. I'm gonna pull myself out for a minute and you guys go ahead and talk.
We're gonna talk I'm gonna
go get it.
Crank Squad.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny, man. So tell me more about your trailer selection on your shad. That I have had a lot of success with the Spark shad on an Okashira screwhead.
For sure.
It's caught me a lot of ass. And I love the Spark shad, how level it swims. I like the makeup. Is that one of your favorite shad tab tail type imitators?
If I could name a favorite, yes, without a doubt. I like the Spark shad, whether I'm up in Sturgeon Bay, just on a ball head, 3/32 ounce, just swimming it back. I'll make up like something like this. You can kind of see them in there, a bunch of like screw heads.
Oh my gosh, you made your own. What the heck?
This is a diner shiner that I poured with a Gamakatsu 604.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude.
This is very Jig Squaddy.
This is Jig Squaddy. We'll talk about this before Kuda gets back, and then I got to hide these because I know he goes up to Sturgeon Bay. Yeah, so I mean,
nastiness. Woo! Look at that.
They fly. So what I really like about that, what I think that Spark shad offers is it offers a bulk profile for it's all proportioned to the size, of course, all relative to size.
Sure.
But that Spark shad's a bulkier side profile, but it's pretty subtle. And while it is still subtle, it does move and disperse a lot of water, displaces a ton of water.
Sure does.
And it will manipulate that skirting material and at the same time kind of just subtly give that thing a wag. The heavier the head, the bigger the Spark shad I'll go. Heavier the weight up here, the more displacement you're going to need back here to move that head. I think one common, I don't want to call it a misconception because I fully understand that in the South, the Alabama twitch thing is a big deal.
Oh yeah. Right.
But dude, up here, I know guys that do it. But I've also fished right behind guys that fish an open in lacrosse, and I'm up there fishing a separate tournament. I'm fishing behind them, and what's their practice? I'm fishing behind them, and these Southern guys are over here just twitching the rod tip, and I'm over here just rod at a 45, just slowly retrieving, and I'm lighting them up behind this guy who's throwing something nearly identical, just twitching the shit out of it.
Right.
And I get it, but I really think in most cases, if you've got the right trailer that's going to manipulate that skirt and that head, you don't need to sit there and wear out your wrist all day twitching,
No. I mean, the magic of a skinny dipper when it first came out, that roll.
For sure.
It's doing that, and that tail's doing that.
And I'm glad you brought that up. That's another trailer I resort to a lot as a skinny dipper.
Yeah.
Another Reaction Innovations bait on the topic of skinny dippers. I go to that Spicy Beaver a lot.
Damn right, dude. That is for bluegill.
Yeah. Ooh. When I'm up like really shallow, like I'm talking 6 inches to 3 foot of water, and the backwaters, particularly around that bluegill spawn, or even when the largemouth are spawning, and you get up really shallow, That thing planes out really nice.
Oh,
you add some of that flash to it, and that June bug head looks just like a bluegill, and they swallow it.
You're talking my language now, man. I love that. That's Protect paint, that June bug color?
That is Protect June bug. Yes, sir.
Man, I'd just dip a whole crank. I'd fire the crankbait up. If I made a metal crankbait, I would heat it up and dip it in the Protect paint, man. But I've got the June bug formulation.
There you go.
Dude, it's dirty, man. I used to paint my heads on my swim jigs dirty with the June bug flavor because I couldn't find it. So I'd take a black. I just laid over a black one. Yeah, man, that's the juice right there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had so many just unbelievable days on this color combination on the Mississippi River up shallow. I was trying to find a jig to show you, but like I've got some that it's almost unrecognizable, the head, because it's just so chewed. It's been swallowed so many times.
What's interesting is some people might look at that with all that purple. What is that? Not crystal flash. I get them all mixed up. Flash boo.
This is Mylar here. Yeah.
Mylar. Thanks. Yeah. They might look at that Mylar and go, damn, that's a lot of Mylar. No, it's not a lot of Mylar, man. For some reason, they like a lot of Mylar in that jig, man.
And by the end of the day, there's no Mylar left.
Right. Exactly. Kuda, make it big. I want to see that jig big, man. If you can, make it big.
Yeah.
That's his Mississippi.
Let me get
Mississippi shallow water juice.
Let me get her presentable for you here.
Yeah.
So like Eric was saying, like it looks like it's a lot of Mylar, and it really is. But once that stuff gets flowing, it really tucks in that skirting material, and it's not nearly as bad as you think. And I use the word bad, and it's not bad. You really want that flash and that really clean water, like I'm talking about. You're buzzing that thing through there pretty quick. They're not getting that great of a look at it. That extra flash, it's totally diversifying you from everybody that's fishing in front of you, or anybody that's been pounding that water before you. It's just different. And man,
look at that sexy ass green wire. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. And that's a Floribama spicy beaver, and that's a standby for me.
There you go.
That's
awesome, dude. So I found this material.
Show us.
I mean, this would be, so they have colors like this would be gray. Let's see if you could see any of this. Hold on. Let's try and get this thrown on a little more. Right. So it comes in these these hanks. This is a gray, but there's like let me get this one out. This is like a smoke olive. They have your classics, like they've got chartreuses and purple, but it's a very fine haired. And to be honest with you guys, my eyes are so bad right now, I can't tell if it's square or flat. Brian, where's Brian Cole? You still in chat, buddy? Is it flat? But anyway, Hedron makes this. The problem is, guys, listen. So I've talked to him on the phone, right? But look at this material. I mean, it's insane. It's super thin. You get some different colors that you don't normally get in terms of like browns, olives, and smoke. And look at here, I'll go closer. The stretch on this. I
love that color. That's an awesome clean water shad back imitator.
Yes.
Most people would go with a black or a blue. That's a really good muted.
If you want to see one of the jigs, if you go on, so Brian's saying it's just finer, but it's round. So if you go on Brian's Custom Tackle on his Instagram page, it was a while within the past year, he posted a jig. I think it might have even been on a football head of a jig that he made with perfect rubber. And I think he actually used the smoke color. You just got to go and see it. I mean, I might have posted it on Jig Squad at one point in time, but if not, I'll maybe post it again. But it's just the material is so phenomenal. It's action in the water. Like I made a few up. To be honest with you, I actually made some hair jigs that I want to use for up north at Mille Lacs, and I used the black with 3 or 4 strands hanging off as a long trailer on a black hair jig. And it's just a different material. I've contacted them myself and said, hey, can you guys get this material in larger hanks? I said, this is designed for guys pulling off one, 2 strands, tying flies.
Yeah.
Look at this stuff though. I mean, I said, we can only make a couple of jigs out of this. You know what I mean? Right. I said, do you have a larger amount? And they really don't. But the point is they make it off a machine. So the thing is there's an opportunity for maybe other things in time, Brennan Chapman.
Okay. Okay. Hey, so we're a Hedron distributor, so it wouldn't be that hard to make something like that happen.
Yeah, so it's such a great material. And if you go and look, if you want to see the colors up close a little bit more, just go on Hedron's website and you could see the colors. But, you know, guys, let's be honest. I mean, people are worried about what other materials people are going to use. And, you know, I mean, here's the thing, guys. How many guys are going to go out and go buy perfect rubber because Jig Squad talked about it tonight? I don't know. But I will tell you this. It's awesome.
I've
and they got a color.
In my basement. It's happening.
Oh, dude, it is. It's such a great material. And when you feel it in your hands, if you like round rubber, I mean, the fineness of this, it's almost like Brian's Custom Tackle said earlier, it's almost like frog's hair, super fine version of living rubber, round rubber. And it's dreamy.
Yeah,
it's some amazing
I will
stuff.
be tying some jigs with that, no doubt.
It is fantastic. I'm going to go one step further, and because it is Jig Squad, and this is what we do. I would go one step further, and I would say, you remember how I talked about trying to make some micro swim jigs? I will tell you that anything that I would make trying to replicate the Kitech mini football jig would be using this material. You take that for what it's worth of what you want to do and not do, but this is some great stuff. To do this from a commercial end on a large scale, you'd be hard pressed because you're buying these hanks. But from the hobbyist or creator end like us in small amounts, you could really make some killer stuff. So, little word to the wise.
Small batch, baby.
That's right, hey, small batch.
Hey, I heard. I was watching Uncle Frank Scalish on a Bass Talk Live talking about the Sparky jig head. It's a do-it head, right? But it was using a hook and modifying it. It's early spring when you got that grass.
Eric loves this.
And it's like just with this freaking beaver and just murdering the fish. No jig skirt, just the beaver. But it had to be on a Sparky head with a modified hook. What the heck? Did anybody see that episode? What was he talking about?
It was a 30-degree hook. He was modifying a hook.
Yeah.
30 degrees.
Yeah. See,
I don't know for sure what it was, but I have a feeling what it might have been. It might have been a 111.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
You know, Kuda, that'd be a cool guy. I know, you know, Uncle Frank's, you know, he's high in the ranks these days and well deserved, but man, he's a do-it fiend, man. He's a tackle porn machine.
We're getting freaking Uncle Frank.
We should get Frank on because he absolutely when Travis and Eric, when you guys had him on, to this day I still think that was probably one of my favorite shows with the juice that he would put out. Dude, he had so many little tips that was just unbelievable. And to get him talking exclusively about jigs, and Brennan, you obviously know him too, so I think we got the right connection to get Frank on. He's
well, you'd have to let me and him talk just 10-15 minutes about crankbaiting. So he hit me up the other day and he said we must talk. So we talked, and it was really good talking to Uncle Frank. I'm going fishing with Uncle Frank this year, man.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Oh man, are you kidding me?
He's the best, and
he's on the Legendary Lakes tour for sure.
Dude,
he is an icon.
I
learned so much from that guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
I was just listening. I don't know if it was today. Yeah, it would have been today's day 4 BTL today. He was talking about that War Eagle jig that Christie won on, and he was talking about how he makes his own Sparkies and does some hook modification things like that. One thing I want to address something real quick.
Let's go.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it.
There was a Jig Squad show. It's probably been several weeks ago by now. You guys were talking about modifying hooks and heating up hooks and maybe screwing with the temperament of hooks.
Yes, people were asking what could or could not be done.
Yep. Yeah. I will say I being a guy that modifies a ton of hooks and knows plenty of people that does modify hooks, this was once a 90 degree and I made it into a 30 degree to fit this mold, right?
Sure.
I think that's a misconception that, modifying your hook, you're jeopardizing the rigidity of that hook, the reliability of the hook. Although that might be true, if you do in fact jeopardize the reliability of that hook or the, integrity of that hook, it's gonna break when you bend it. Instantly. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Exactly. Okay. I mean, I know guys that are fishing on tour on the Elite Series, with $100,000 on the line that are fishing with modified hooks in a do-it mold, right? If they're willing to put $100,000 on the line, I think that's a testament to what you can do when it comes to modifying hooks. If it's gonna break, it's gonna break when you're bending it right there. And if that thing's encapsulated in lead, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, right on. So, good.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I feel terrible if somebody went and lost a ton of money now, but I got to tell you, I'm not fishing for $100,000 every other week, but if I was, I wouldn't be afraid to do it. So
right on.
Just throwing it out there.
Stuff, man.
That's good to know because here's the thing, guys. I mean, I'm just going to speak for myself, right? Like, so there's plenty of stuff that I know, but there's plenty of stuff that I don't know as well, So like, I'm not on here because, I'm not doing this because I'm an expert. I'm on because I'm just a journeyman. I got a good story and I know just enough to bring other people on and talk cool stuff, right? So it's things like this that we have to be able to put out and have these conversations about, because I don't think, we have to learn together. Look at, Gramps is in the Fishing with Gramps is in the chat. I always bring Gramps up because he's kind of one of the new cats that are pouring some jigs, but is publicly known out in the YouTube scene. And like, I appreciate him so much because like, learning about these things or he's new at it, but yet he's taking the time, he's learning the tie, he's starting to pour, he's doing all these things. And yet here he has an audience out there that respects him for the things he does. And then you got guys like On the Fly Tackle. And I know he doesn't want me calling him out like this, but I'm gonna, up in Wisco, who these guys are walleye catching monsters, and they catch smallmouth and they design crazy bucktails. And if you're not following them, you should be, because these are all people that you don't have to be a big mouth to be somebody that knows something in this industry. And these are all people that are in the chat all the time, guys. We have some legends among us, right? And just pay attention, right? Follow these other people, look and see what they do. And it's not always going to be the juice, but when we have these opportunities to learn from each other, I mean, what the heck? This is what this is supposed to be about.
Amen, man.
Newer experience. Doesn't matter.
That's right. As your minister of culture, I say you got it spot on.
Yeah. I mean, and I got my paint guy down there, Larry Hadley, my ultra minnow, manic mullet, my lovely man from Texas. He is going to be coming on the show. And I am so stoked and excited. So, yeah, guys, I mean, lots of cool stuff. So, Brian said earlier, just fine rubber. Guys, I'll tell you what. Hey, Brennan, let me ask you this. What about, you showed a little bit about mixing and you talked about color toning when you would mix round rubber with silicone tabs. Mm-hmm. That style, I just wanted to say this because that's like the number one thing that I'm trying to replicate right now, of doing things like that. So taking a standard color, and I'm trying to push myself to make things with brown in it, brown living round rubber, and then accentuating them with other colors to get these real cool little color profiles. Sure. And my friends are, these things don't last long because they go right out the door to my friends' tackle boxes.
That's when the unfortunate part about being, a part of this community is you got buddies that are like, hey, can I have some jigs? And then you have to give it to them. Sorry, go ahead.
It's true, man. And it's funny because like I kind of look at the end of the day, I'm like, well, what do I have left that I've made? I'm like, I've given most of it away, But I will say this. That's the type of jig that excites me the most right now. Last year was making some things with hair, and I've made plenty of stuff like that. But any type of combination with like round rubber, and actually I'm trying to mess around with new materials in round rubber, not even silicone, like hybrid version things. But yeah, it's any combination thereof. And if you can get round rubber, usually has anyone messed around with the large round rubber? Because it's always medium for me, and I want to start playing around with the fine a little bit more.
I'm a medium guy myself. And it's not because I don't think there's not value to the other stuff. There's been some really good recommendations tonight for other materials, and I'm definitely going to dive into those. But I'm a medium guy myself. I'm interested to know if anybody else ties with the large and what their results have been.
So there was a chatterbait that came from Japan that I had. I was fishing it starting around 2000, way before the jackhammer, years and years. I fished it for the first time with Pete Kluzik, and it had 2 to 4, maybe it was 4 sections of it on the bottom. And so you got to think about a vibrating jigs imparting a lot of action. So I think the larger rubber stood up to the action of the jig, and had quite a day on it, man. It was a red and black, and I had a Sasuteki crawl on the back, which is loaded with salt. So the Sasuteki crawl is meant to be a flip machine. It's jackal, and I just had it dialed in that day, man. But it interested me because of the combination of material and that fatter, large rubber on the bottom of that chatterbait. Interesting thought, right? Vibrating jig versus a jig, but a bigger presence in the water, perhaps.
Interesting.
I would have to believe it's a slower, maybe a lazier movement in the water as well. You wouldn't think it'd flow as easily, as
the
easily
whole
manipulated.
skirt wasn't that. It was just 4 strands on the bottom.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So it was like this kicker, I didn't really pay attention much because it was just getting eaten, but it was there, and I noted it because I'm like, wow, they've mixed this material, and you've got these big 4 pieces on the bottom. I just thought it was interesting. That's the only time I've seen it, and I didn't tie it. Yep.
So, Brennan, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up, and I kind of told you about this already. So I know that some people were asking me. I for those people out there didn't know, I did a little pop-up show Sunday night, just me rambling. Eric was finishing installing his batteries on his buddy's boat and driving over to Nag's Head. So I was just kind of giving some updates and talking about things people have been asking me. Nothing wasn't our typical. It wasn't a Jig Squad typical show. It was just some updates from me. So you should go and check that out because I give some updates of what we're going to do for a show schedule over the next 2 months. So we're going to go to every other week. We do have a show next week. We're not leaving yet, by the way, right now. I'm just telling you, we do have a show next week. But after that, we're going to be going to every other week. And so you should watch that show. It's not that long. You get an idea of kind of why and what we're doing. But I would be remiss because some people were asking me on Sunday night, what about new molds coming out? So what you could say what you obviously want regarding that. But some people have been asking about what's new coming from Do It Molds when it comes to molds.
Well, we've got, I guess I'll just start with this. Like, we're not laying down bunts this year. Like, we're swinging for the fence. So there's some risky stuff that I don't feel it's personally risky as it relates to maybe soft baits. Think Japanese when it comes to some soft bait stuff that you're going to see here come ICAST. I'm not quite there yet to maybe spill the beans, mainly because there's still some development that's going on. Although I would say most of our new products are probably 90% there. We're
talking like ICAST, you're saying, Brennan?
Yep.
Okay.
Most of our ICAST products are like I said, about 90% done. For me right now, there's ice everywhere. So there's a little bit of validation that's going to need to happen for me. As soon as ice comes off, I'm definitely not going to release anything to you guys that I myself don't put the stamp of approval on. And I'm definitely not going to do that until, they've been through the test. So played around with them a lot this fall. But I want to swing on some fish and cross some eyes a couple more times before I'm going to say that they're ready to go. That said, I don't know what the Jig Squad schedule is, come July. If there's the Thursday show or something right before ICAST, I'll leak some stuff on Jig Squad exclusive new product.
I'm in.
Okay. We'll spill the beans. We'll spill the beans right before ICAST to this community right here. Because there's some good stuff coming. I'm going to tell you right now, there's some good stuff coming.
Yes.
I'm super excited. I think, guys, and Brennan, you've heard this because Brennan's been in chat. You don't always hear Brennan talk a ton in chat, but he's been on most of the shows, right? And he's always around, so he hears the talk and what we're saying. And you guys make no mistake about it. I've said since day one, like who I run with, right? I don't mislead people. I don't say anything. But at the end of the day, you know, I don't spend our whole show talking about doing molds or stuff like that. I mean, Brennan's here because the guy makes some killer jigs, and we spent more time talking about that tonight than this type of stuff. But
I took some notes on his jigs today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be putting in a request for just a few to test on the Potomac.
All right, that's an honor. That's an honor, Eric. I'd be happy to supply you with some jigs, dude.
I'll send you a few of my skirt formulations that are bluegillish. I'll send them your way and see if you like them, and we'll test the different flavors.
I got one right here that you sent me, and I'll never fish it. That thing. That sucker right there, dude.
Oh, there you go.
That sucker right there, that belongs on the wall, man. That'll never touch the water.
It's hot. You can't. You don't want to use it because it'll be gone.
It's beautiful. I can't. I'd cry if I lost it.
Thank you, man. The guy wrote me a note. I've said it on Jig Squad before. I'll say it again because I was really proud of it. Because you sometimes you hear what you send out, and you get positive vibes. But a guy won $1,400 in Texas on the shaky jig worm. So
that's awesome.
I continue to catch some bigs this last winter, and a couple of the Bass Lab boxes that I sent out recently, in particular the bladed jig. M. Jones is on tonight. He said he was absolutely crushing them behind a guy with a jackhammer on this bladed jig I sent him from Japan. It is a very different action. It is so cool to me, because I'm a nut, but it's so cool to me to hear you as a jig maker and to see you hold up a skirt. The way you just tied it, it looks like a reverse finesse jig, very sparse, with a lot of flair. And then to think about CUDA and flow and the impact that skirt material and the way you design that jig and the tying, the color combinations, how you got it, the mylar that you put in your swim jig, how you wanted to pack the spicy beaver, the bottom contact thing you're thinking about with round rubber. It's just that, to me, it just hits me at the core. That's what Bass Lab's all about. That's what Jig Squad's all about. And I get excited when you build something like the shaky jig worm and somebody does well, and I tied it sparse and funky long and inspired by some of the JDM little micro jigs that are super long, shrimpy looking stuff. And those guys in Japan are trying to catch fish on lakes that get crushed with pressure. That's exciting. I mean, to me, because it's color, it's flow, it's design, it's all of those things mixed into one, man. So it's an honor to be here with CUDA, be his minister of culture. I got involved because I love the creativity. I talked to you, early before CUDA did this thing, and man, I'm just happy to be around the do it community, a community of guys that do it for pride, that can make things and hopefully send a few things my way, and I'll send things back, because I don't pour, right? But I tie my head off. I just don't have the space. If I had a different house, I would be pouring lead. That's a fact.
For sure, man.
But now I got to buy lead, and that's okay. I'll buy naked heads and just tie stuff on it for now, man. So, but I love it, man.
With that. Yeah, it's the creativity.
Not at all, man.
It's the creativity. Yeah. That's what it's all about. Yeah. No, this is a super cool community, and I guess this is a really good segue. Mike, or CUDA, the dean, when you reached out to me, I just thought, like, how crazy is it? Like, the reason I have the stuff in this room, the computer hooked up to electricity, the Wi-Fi, everything is literally revolving around, like, I make my livelihood, right? Like, my career is around this community, people that are interested in custom tackles, literally how I make a living. That's how I feed myself. How crazy is that I'm able to come on here and connect with like-minded people, Jig Squad people, my people, that's insane. It's crazy to think about.
It's awesome.
Brennan, it's funny. A lot of people ask, and like Sunday, I kind of touched on this a little bit. I kind of joked about it. Like, it was the funny CUDA telling like the funny stories of like why I do this. And everyone asks like, what are you doing with all sponsors, all these? I go, guys, that's not my jam. Like, I tell people all the time, I am not quitting my day job. This is what I do. I I love the creative community. And I said, and I'll tell you what, there's two guys on this stream with me tonight, Eric and Brennan, and both these guys knew I was doing this. Yeah. They knew I was doing this long before it came out. Yeah. They knew the Jig Squad was coming. And the thing is, I went into this and I really had no clue what the hell I was doing. I'm going to be brutally honest. I didn't, but I learned how to do graphics. I learned how to, do these things. And now it's just, now we get to play. So everyone in chat, everyone that's part of this, whether you're on Instagram or not, the reality is, how cool is that we can talk about different jig styles? You got Hellabass talking about a material that half of us didn't even know what it was. Like, This is cool stuff. And there are guys, and I want you to know this, and gals, there are guys and gals that send me messages on Jig Squad almost every week and says, you know what? I haven't tied a jig in this long. And you guys inspire me to get out and start making things again. Where's Tom Morehouse? He's in chat. Tom lives probably about less than a half hour away from me. But he's like, hey, I just made my first jigs. This is what they look like. And then he actually posted them on Instagram. We're as good as we are to each other, how we treat each other. And at the end of the day, if you might be one of the hottest tires, I think Brian Schmidt from Brian Schmidt Baits, he comes from a world of fly tying and ties jigs now, and I love him. And Brian Cole and Gary Sheets and all these different guys, all of you do all these amazing things. And like, we just need to be good to each other and listen and be willing. Everyone's going to have a different perspective on this, but it's all art. It's all creativeness. It's all creative.
No doubt, man. I'm here because of my dad, and that picture behind my shoulder was the last painting my dad painted.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool. He gave me the creative gene, and I thank him every day for it because it makes life way better. It makes it exciting to be here talking with creators. It makes it exciting for me to connect with people on Instagram. It got me through a crazy pandemic to talk nuttiness in fishing and my crankbait addiction and my everything fishing addiction. So no, it's nice to be with like-minded. And Kuda, thanks again for asking me to be on with you, man. I can't thank you enough. And Brennan, mad respect for what you guys do at Do It. You're a quality act, man. I enjoyed our conversations prior to Jig Squad, man. I'll be back at some point. I hope I get a shot. You're doing what I've always wanted to do, right? Because I picked the corporate thing, but fishing has always been my passion.
Eric,
I work so I can fish.
Eric,
that's a fact, Jack. Because when I was a kid, my first job was a paper route, and every day there'd be a tackle box on one side and my papers on the other and a one rod.
I want to show you something here real quick, actually.
Let's see. I love it. Make them big.
This was the first first job I ever had right here.
Dude, that's so awesome.
That's so great.
Minimum wage, baby. Hank's Live
Bait and Tackle. I see Bait and Tackle. What's the name of the shop?
Hank's Live Bait and Tackle in Waterloo, Iowa. Sorting night crawlers, dude.
That's so
awesome. I mean, this is just something I've had. I was wired to work in fishing, right? There's just no path to get there. And hopefully, if everything goes as planned, I won't work in fishing until I retire, but I'll work in the fishing industry till I die.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm here to do. Yep,
that's brilliant, man. It's beautiful. Man.
I love it.
That's
first paycheck and last paycheck. I hope they're both fishing industry.
That's awesome.
So
man.
Everyone in chat. So the goal, I think in time, what's going to happen is, I would definitely like to get Brennan on. He talked about some stuff for July, so I think that'd be pretty cool right before ICAST. I told you guys go watch the show from Sunday, but basically here's the 30-second version of us going every other week. This time of year gets really busy for me with school and stuff like that. And I think everyone's starting to go out and fish. And so that's basically why we're going to go to an every other week schedule. There's so many different designers out there that we're going to get on, but we have a lot of shows ahead of us in the future. And I never wanted this to be a job. I wanted us to have fun with this. But, like I said, here we are. We're going to go into April and May, and we're going to go to every other week. So Tom Morehouse, thanks, buddy. Hit the like button, right? So I do have goals for this page. Share it. Pass the word on when I post. When you see that there's shows coming up, typically they're going to be every Thursday. I did say the other night, and I don't have a way to talk to the community, because I'm not at that level yet on YouTube for like 1,000+ followers and all these other little parameters they have. I'll get there. But the thing is, so when I didn't do a show the previous week, like there was no way to tell everyone. So like our goal is to go. So we're going to go next week. And then after that, it's going to go every other week for the, until we get to the end of May. And then we're just going to try and start working shows and when we can for the summer, and what that looks like. But I will say that coming up next week, right? We got my Chicago boy, Ryan Whitaker from Tightrope Jigs is going to be on. And if you haven't seen his jigs, John DeMay from Dem Jigs in the house. He knows Ryan well. He's another Chicago guy. I'm really excited to have him on. I'm excited, Brennan, for you to offer that opportunity in July, saying like, hey, let's come and release some of these things and give a little sneak peek for
we're gonna leak it. We're gonna leak it.
We're gonna leak it,
man.
That's what we do.
That's exciting.
That's what we do. So Brennan, I appreciate having you on. I had a good time tonight. And
me too, man. Brennan, thank you for showing some jigs you probably didn't want to show.
No, I didn't, but I will show them to this community.
I love it
any day. So I thank you guys so much for having me on. Like I said, how crazy is that like this is literally how I make a living, and just having the ability to connect with everybody here, connect with you guys. I mean, it means the world. So thank you guys so much.
That's
good stuff, Brennan. Lots more.
That's what I like.
Lots more good stuff to come. So guys, listen, I'll pop it up one more time so you guys see. So Brennan's where is it at? Here's Brennan's email or Instagram. Brennan Chapman. Of course, if you guys want to chase down Do It Mold stuff, you can go on Do It Mold's website. You can go at Barlow's Tackle, Lure Parts Online, wherever you want to go. They all have Do It Mold products.
Bass Pro, Cabela's, Mills Farm and Fleet, Shields, all over.
Yes. And if you have questions, guys, I put this out there all the time to people. If you have any questions about molds or anything else, you just got to hit me up and send a message, and I'll do what I can. I'll give you my phone number, and I'll try and walk you through what you need to do to get squared away. I've done it probably since Jig Squad started. I've probably done it with about 15, 20 guys already, just getting started on what to do. So that's what we do, and I encourage you guys to do the same thing. Okay.
Kuda, I would like, if you need to blow off some steam at some point, because your Dean activities are getting a little stressful. I would like just a quick 15-second clip on your Instagram about the adjuster.
Oh yeah. So you guys want? I'll do a video
at school today.
I'll do a video on the adjuster. So for anyone that doesn't know, the adjuster will be brought up periodically, but it's a very scientifically made device. Yeah. And I actually might even, what we'll do? Maybe we'll make
it like a 70s style Starsky and Hutch, the adjuster.
Black and white. Black and white. I can make it black and white, like the mad scientist walking out into the garage, the adjuster.
The adjuster.
Dude, that's t-shirt worthy. That's t-shirt worthy.
I think there's something coming. I think we're going to have to do something like that.
Oh, Flow, the adjuster. You got it.
We got lots of stuff coming. Lots of good fun things.
Too many ideas, man. I can't even contain it.
I know. I have more ideas than I have time to make things, right? That's how this goes.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm collaborating with some of the people that have been on the stream to make little things come to life. I think Brian's Custom Tackle is working on the everlasting drop shotter. I sent him a bunch of material. He's tying them up. He sent me he didn't send me a prototype picture. So Brian, if you're still on, man, I love it. So we'll see. It's coming, because people have been bugging me to can you make some more of those? And I'm like, no, I can't, because I can't sit in my basement and tie stuff all year. I can't, I love it, but I can't do it. But anyway, this has been awesome.
Yeah. Guys, I appreciate y'all a ton. So like I said, next week, Brennan, thanks for being on, buddy. Let's get out of here, folks. We're at 1 hour and 43 minutes. That's perfect. Everyone knows I like to be done by 9 o'clock Central Time. So, Brennan, stay in chat after we end the stream. But you guys, this is Jig Squad. You guys are part of the experience. I love you all. Fantastic time tonight, and we're out. Peace, everyone.
Peace.